we've looked at this sefer before. This is Maseches Tefillah, so it's a relatively contemporary sefer that came out just a few years ago. Brings together so many different sources on davening, on all, a lot of aspects of davening anyway. So I wanted to look at Kabalas Shabbos. It's something that clearly we're doing on a weekly basis, but it's like every week on Shabbos I'm thinking about this. Like how do we sort of dig a little bit deeper and really understand what is what are we saying? Where does this come from? Kabalas Shabbos it's interesting, right? Because it's not necessarily the source for it and the sources for it don't come to mind right away. So I thought we would start with the Gemara and Shabbos. That's where Maseches Tefillah, sort of how they organized the daf here, is that this is like sort of the central source, and then there are perushim, just like really understanding the words, and then the shita mikubetzes is really just bringing all these different sources in so we can understand that piece of whatever it is that we're talking about. So he starts by, and we'll just jump into the Mizmorim piece that we sing on Friday nights. And the Gemara says, this is a Gemara in Shabbos, says, Isabel Perikol Kisvei, it's in Perikol Kisvei, Rabbi Chanina me'atef v'koafanya demale Shabsa, Amar bo v'netzi likra Shabbos hamalka. So the Gemara says that, and we'll see there's two different opinions, Rav Chanina and there's Rav Yanai. So Rav Chanina would get dressed. He would get dressed in sounds like in a Shabbos garb. And he would come in, this is when as Shabbos is coming in, and then he would say, I guess he would go out and say, come, let's go out to meet the Shabbos, the Shabbos Malka, the Shabbos Queen. Okay, then Rabbi Yanai said Rabbi Yanai lavish anya ma'ale Shabbos the Amar boi kala. Right, so this obviously sounds familiar to us. That Rabbi Yanai would say, or Rabbi Yanai would say, boi kala. So here comes the Shabbos bride. Right, I guess different idea of Shabbos Malka versus the bride. But this is really, it's a very short source that we have introducing us to this whole idea and how Kabalas Shabbos sort of grew out of this. So let's jump down. And there's a lot on this, so we'll sort of see how far we can, how far we get and what we can cover. So he starts by saying, B'Gemara muvas kan anu motzim shekvar etzo hamaroim. So we see, he says, we see from this Gemara all the way back to the times of the Amoraim that they would do certain things to prepare for Shabbos, right? They were getting dressed in much more kovedik clothing for Shabbos. Shahayu omrim bo v'netzi likra Shabbos malkasa, o shahayu karim la v'omrim boi chala v'hinei kayom. And so it seems to be saying that, that from this source of going out and welcoming the Shabbos Malka, or by saying boi kala, that was sort of the source for us to start to put together these mizmorim, the kapitlach from Tehillim that we say, the Kabbalah Behem Shabbos v'nirish gam zehu alpi hagemara muvas kad. That's all comes, he says, from this Gemara. V'hainu shebemeshech hadoros lo yistapku be'amiras mishpat echad l'Kabalas Shabbos. And he says it's interesting that in the continuation of the generations after the Amoraim, they weren't satisfied with saying just one line, just that single line of boi kala. That wasn't enough. Right? We now we have the mizmorim that we say, the kapitlach of tefillim that we say, that then lead us into lechadodi. So he says, and now we're going to try and take a look at this step by step, right? Understand it. Okay. So lechuna ranana mizmar leDavid havu laHashem. So kasav agon yabitz. He's going to start with the yabitz with Yaakov Emden. This is a quote from the introduction in his siddur to Kabalas Shabbos. It says, "V'zel leshona poschim be'artzos alalu lechunen ranana V'gorim shisha mizmarim mizmar tzadi hey ad tzadi tes u'mizmar chav tes keneged sheshes yemei achol ad kan toch devarav. He says, like right in the middle of this paragraph, he says that in our lands, Rav Yaakov Edmond says, we say, we start with Lechuna Rana. We have these 6 mizmorim that we say that go from tzadi, it's in order, right? Tzadi tes tzadi hey to tzadi tes, and then that leads up to Havula Hashem Havula Hashem B'nei Elim, right? That's Mizmor Chavtes. So then that's not in order, but that's the Yavitz. And the Yavitz, I think if I remember right, when I saw it inside, I think he says that his minhag was not to say all those 6 mizmorim, that he just starts with Havula Hashem. But we'll see, and we'll see that that's clearly that is, I think, the Sephardi minhag as well. Which is Vikasa b'Sefer Seder Tikkunei Shabbos v'Zelashono Leman Das Kol Amei Haaretz Ki Hashem Hu Elokim B'Shamayim V'Aretz. This is really, for all of us lay people, I think is what he's saying. These mizmorim are supposed to try and wake us up to the greatness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and both here on earth and in the Shemayim. L'chein tiknu bali tikkunei Shabbos ashisha mizmorim shekulam misaprim shir b'shevach oz v'sifer shel kutchabrichu. So these mizmorim, right, would tell the incredible glory and strength, and however we want to translate all these different aspects, midos of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'derech eretz shekol misha mekabel pnei melech basar v'dam shemesaper tchila shavach ma'alosav es yakar tiferes gedulaso. He says, we think about it when we're about to meet, let's say, a king, a flesh and blood, right, or any high-ranking person, or anytime somebody is introduced to speak, right, you start by talking about all the great things that they do and all the great things that they've accomplished, whatever else. So it says, we're about to, come to the Pnei Shechina on Shabbos. So be'amarna bo v'netzi likras kala machoser shetzrichim lesaper tchila shevach shenirmezu b'shisha hamizmorim. And so that's why these 6 mizmorim that really sort of hint to us all of the great aspects of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's why we do it. And they represent these, and this is what the Abba said as well, right? They represent each of the why 6. They represent the days of the week, the days of creation, leading up to Shabbos. Okay. So Keneged Shisha Kitzvos Kiyadua Lechein Baal Nefesh Didaktik Be'elam Mizmorim She Rashi Teva Shalahem Gematria Shalahem Nefesh. And he says that, so we should really think about it and be megdaktik as we're saying these, because the Rashi Tevos in them is also the gematria of nefesh. V'dabek nefesh hayisera sheba b'Shabbos b'shchinta kala machosa amen sela. And that's how we connect to that, right? The idea is that this is also when we're getting our neshama yisera. He works out what the gematria is right up here where it says Lechun Arani Shula Hashem, Hashem Melech, and he breaks it out how to get to that gematria, but we'll leave that aside. But there's a gematria of nefesh, again, connected the neshama yisera that we get. Umaschilin v'omrim elu hashisha mizmarim kodem kol v'chol mizmar u'mizmar connected yom echad mimei echol. Right, as we've said, each of these mizmorim is connected one of the days of the week. V'chavin ki b'chol mizmar davar yom b'yom who koris misalek haklipos sheshotu v'gavru ba'oso hayom. So why is that? So he says because, and clearly this is more of a mystical idea, but for every mizmor that we say, it helps us to remove the husks, whatever we want to understand the idea of the klipos, right? That gather around us as we're engaging in this world. That helps us to sort of remove those husks, and so that we can connect to Shabbos. So besod siach sifsosenu ad kan l'shono. Okay. Umasha kasa besoch dvarav shegematria shel rashi ateva shel shishas hamizmorim olim lecheshbon nefesh kach kasav gam bekitzer the shla v'hu keneged haneshama yisera sheba b'Shabbos. So I think I guess I already alluded to that, but the shla brings that down, that the idea of the gematria of the nefesh is keneged the neshama yisera. Okay. But Sefer Otzer Tami Minhagim Havi Od Shnei Tamim Lamirs Mizmarim Haim Mizmarim Elu. So a couple of other reasons why we say these Mizmarim. V'echad shemisaper apsuki b'sheishes Mizmarim Halaluhu Samech Hei Kaminin Shem Shoadnus V'hashini Shesheishes Hamizmarim Im Keneged Sheisha Tkiya Shahayu Nogim Litkoa B'Yom Shishi Lifnei Knesses Shabbos. So either they're Keneged the Shem Hashem, or they also connected the tkiyos that we would blow before Shabbos came in. Again, just sort of different ideas, different references, I suppose, for why we're saying these mizmarim. So, I'm sorry. Is there a question? So what I want to do though is jump to the next paragraph where he deals and sort of does a deeper dive into Mizmor LeDavid. So Mizmor LeDavid Havul Hashem B'nei Elim. So he says Kvar Iskarnu Shehu HaMizmor Hashishi Misheshus HaMizmarim Shah Lechu Neranana. Right, this is the sixth of those six Mizmarim. Ubezen Nagu Kulam Gam Asvardim. So this everybody agrees that we say. Friday night at Kabalas Shabbos. Shalom Nagu Lomar Es Mizmar Shah Lechuna Ranana, because the Sfardim don't say Lechuna Ranana, they just jump right into Havul Hashem, Mizmor LeDavid. B'nei Al HaKesher Shah Mizmar Zeh LeShabbos Metzinu Kamatam. So what is the connection? Why is this Mizmar? Why does everybody agree that this is, this Mizmar is said on Friday night? So he says there are several reasons. So let's take a look. It says B'Sefer Otzer Tami Hamin Hagim Kasav Hashem Sheyesh Bo Sheva Pa'amim Kol. That the word Kol, the voice of Hashem is said. That word appears 7 times. Shekenegdim Tiknu Sheva Brachos B'Tfilas HaShabbos B'Makom Yurches B'Chol. He says those 7 times it says Kol. That is why they're mitaking the Sheva Brachos of Tfilah. Right, the Tfilah that we have on Shabbos. There's only 7 brachas and not the 18 or really 19 today that we have during the week. So those 7 are alluded to right in this mizmar. Gedisa begemar b'maseches brachos. So hani shava deshabza keneged mi amar Rebbe Tachlifa ben Sho keneged shiva kolos she'amar David al hamayim adkan. So this is the Gemara already is telling us that this is the source. Apparently this is the source for why on Shabbos is our tefillah only 7 brachos. So again, that's certainly a connection into why we would say this mizmor on Shabbos. V'chein kosa b'tikun tefillah v'od tam yesh al pi ha'gemarim b'maseches Zvachim v'yishma Yisro. Right, the Gemara in Maseches Zvachim says v'yishma Yisro. What did he hear? Ma shmu Hashem. What exactly did Yisro hear that he came and joined the Bnei Yisrael? So Rabbi Elazar HaModai Amer Matan Torah Shamar Shama Uba, that he heard that. So Rabbi Elazar Modai said he heard about Matan Torah. That's why he came. Nidna Torah Yisrael Haya Kolo Holich Mesofa Olam Ad Sofa. Everybody, when the Torah was given, the entire world heard the Kolos. V'chol Malchi Akum Achzosem Ra'adam Behecholahem V'amru Shira Shene'amar V'hecholo Kulo Omer Kavod. So here's an allusion, in that mizmor when we say Ubehecholo Kulo Omer Kavod. What does that mean? Ubehecholo in the Hechol. Everyone is saying kavod. What does that mean? It means that all the kings, all the non-Jewish kings that in their palaces around the world, when Hashem was giving us the Torah, they also heard these kolos and they were scared. It scared them. So niskabzu kulam etzo bilam arasha. They all got together and found Bilam. The Amrulo, they said, Ma kol haman asher shemanu shema mabo ba leolam Hashem lamabo yashav. They said, is a mabo coming? What's going on? That's Hashem lamabo yashav. Amar lehem ve'eshev Hashem melech leolam. So he answered back, no. Kvar nishba Hakadosh Baruch Hu she'enu mevi mabo leolam. Right? Hakadosh Baruch Hu's already made a shvur that he's not going to bring another mabo. So Amrulo mabo shel mayim ein mevi aval mabo shel eish mevi. Maybe he'll bring, he said he's not going to bring water, but what about another type of mabul of Aish? some other destructive force. He's already promised he's not going to destroy all living people, all living things. So what is it that we heard? Amar lehem, chem datova yeshlo bebayis ganzav shahaisa genuza itzlo takedoros kodem shenivra haolam obikish litna levanav. Because what was going on is this is something that was hidden for such a long period of time, all these generations before the world was created, and then he wanted to give it to his children, to Bnei Yisrael. Shnamar Hashem oz le'amo yitein. It's interesting, this is again another pasuk in that kapita of Tehillim. Hashem oz le'amo yitein. From this Gemara, it sounds like, what does it mean that Hashem gave us oz, which literally means strength, right? So oz in this context means the Torah. So maybe it's a source of strength is the Torah. I'm not sure, but it's it's an interesting taich of what does that language mean. Miad paschu kulam Hashem yivarech esamo v'shalom. So they all said Hashem yivarech esamo v'shalom. That Hashem should bless his people with shalom. Ad kan me'gemara hanal v'kevin shekayma lan shetorah b'Shabbos nitna. And once we understood, or once we've established the Torah was given on Shabbos, nahagu lomar mizmar zeh b'Shabbos. So again, here we have a connection to Torah from this Gemara Zvachim, and because the Torah was given on Shabbos, now we have maybe a more indirect, but certainly a connection back to Shabbos for why we would say it on Shabbos. Shukulo nidresh al matan Torah kedapershu hagemara vayin betur. Okay. So those are two different reasons why we can see that Mizmor LeDavid is something that is connected either directly or maybe a little bit indirectly connected, but certainly connected to Shabbos. So that is why we say it in all communities say this. All right. So then he goes on, because of Od Besidur Otzer Hatfilos B'Shem B'Shem Rosh V'Zel Lishono Bekisvei Ha'arizal Mevur hatikurim hagdolim v'naraim hanasim ba'olamas ha'yonim hakdoshim ayidei amiris mizmar zeh b'Kabalas Shabbos. So the Arizal brings down in this, and it's brought down in this Sefer B'Samim Rosh, that the incredible things that we are doing, again, these mystical ideas of what we are doing in the higher realms, when we say this mizmar on Kabalas Shabbos. Shebe amiris hashlosha havu la'Hashem. So the word or the phrase Havu LaHashem comes up 3 times in that mizmar. So that's I guess according to this, that is bringing tikkun to the 3 different higher realms. And in the 7 kolos that we already mentioned above, there's the word kol is said 7 times. That is a tikkun in amongst itself. B'shmona esrei havayas, that the Shem Hashem is said 18 times. Shebemizmar zeh shekenegdem tiknu ad shegeneses agdola shmona esrei brachos b'tfilah zachol. Like that same Gemara in Brachos that we said earlier, that there's 7 times that it says the word call. That's how we learned out 7 brachos in the Shemona Esrei and Shabbos, but the Shem Havaya is said 18 times, or repeats itself 18 times in that mizmor, and that is how we learn out that there's 18 brachos in the Tfilas Achol. So both sets of tefillas are learned out from the same mizmor. Ubishmona Esrei Havayos Elu Ayin Beis Osios Keneged Shem Ayin Beis. So there's actually 72 letters when you go through all those 18. That's Keneged, the special Shem Hashem that had 72 letters in it. Kemispar Chesed Osim Tikun Bifnei Atzmo. Biyodalef Psukim Shebemizmar Zen. There's 11 Psukim. The Kemispar of Hashem Shebeshem Havaya Baruchu Osim Tikun Bifnei Atzmo. All right. I don't understand all these things, right? But we can clearly see from the Ari that there's all these, there's all these allusions that we have in this one mizmar that apparently are responsible for all these different tikkunim. So again, just another idea as to why we say this mizmar on on Friday night. Just to go a little bit, we have a few more minutes. So just to go a little bit further. So now then he gets into, actually, you know what? Let's skip the Ana B'Koach, but let's go into Lechodo D just because we've got a few minutes and we can look at that for a little bit. So Lechodo D, he says, Kasav b'Sefer Tikun Tefila, v'zel Lashono. Mechaber Asher Hazehu Reb Shlomo Bar Moshe Halevi Alkabetz. And we know that Reb Shlomo Alkabetz wrote Lechodo D. Hayarabo Vigiso Show Rav Moshe Cordovero. So he was not only the Rebbe, but he was also the brother-in-law, right, of Moshe, or Rav Moshe Cordovero. Shechai Betchila Hamei Haravis La'elav Zeh, that he lived in 5,400 and something is what he's saying. Yesad Shiro Al Shem Ma'amarim B'Masech Shabbos, and he wrote that L'Chadodi. He wrote that based on, again, that earlier Gemara that we saw. Rabbi Chanina Ma'atif Koya Fani Debali Shabsa Amar Bo Venetza Likra Shabbos Hamalka. Right, he used that. And Rabbi Yadnai Lavish Ma'ane Ma'alia Shabbos Amar Boikala Ad Kan Lashono. So that was the inspiration for Shlomo Alkabetz to write L'Chadodi. V'nivoer es Dvarav Dehine Dina Gemara Hanal Huva Beposkim Alacha. And this is actually brought, this Gemara, which seems to be more agadic, is brought down halacha, as the Rambam states in the 30th, all the way in the 30th parak in Hilchah Shabbos. V'zelashona mitzvah al adam lirchotz panav yoda v'raglav. Everyone has to wash at least your face, your hands, your feet. B'chamin, in warm water. Be'er Shabbos, mipnei kavod Shabbos. Mizativ b'tzitzis. And interestingly enough, when the Gemara says mizativ, it seems like it means that he got dressed in nice clothing. The Rambam says mizativ b'tzitzis. Now you just sort of wonder if, according to the Rambam, does wearing Shabbos-day clothing also include, wearing tzitzis? I don't know, but it's interesting that he says misatif tzitzis. B'yosef bekovid rosh me'echel lahakabolas pnei haShabbos, and you have to sort of get rid of levity when Shabbos comes in, kamoshehu yosi likras hamelech, as if you are greeting the king. Okay, v'chachamim harishonim hayu gabzim talmidehem be'erev Shabbos, and the original Chachamim would gather together all their students and their Shabbos, misatfim v'omrim, they all get dressed and they'd say, Bo v'netze likra Shabbos hamelech ad kan lashono. So that's the Rambam. So again, bringing it down la'alacha, became pasuk HaShulchan Aruch. Yismach b'vias Shabbos ki yosi likras hamelech. You have to be happy at the coming in of Shabbos, just like you're greeting your king. Ki yosi likras Chassan and Kala, or like you're greeting a Chassan and Kala. Again, clear allusion to that Gemara. Rabbi Chanin me'atev v'koi b'fai b'alei Shabbos v'amar boi v'netzel likra Shabbos v'malchosa. Rabbi Yani amar boi kala ad kan lashono. Okay. V'apizeh haya minag lifnim Yisrael shekol echad haya mekabel as a Shabbos bifnei atzmo. And therefore, all of us, we accept Shabbos ourselves, according to our ability to sing or to enunciate. Sira Kabalas Shabbos shenogim po kavanas l'sader l'chadodi mechadshim mekarav bo ki lifnim kibo kol echad es Shabbos le'atzmo keren tfilas mincha ad kan lashono. So apparently the older minhag was that before mincha, we'd all sort of accept upon ourselves, almost like what Rav Yanai did or Rav Kanina did, sort of go out and say just one line or something, they'd accept upon Shabbos. That's how it was done. V'asher al-kain ra Rav Shlomo Halevi Alkabetz. And then Rav Shlomo Halevi Alkabetz said, or he decided, L'chaber shir na Kabalas Shabbos shehu kulam omrim nusach echad. He wanted something that we could all say as a community together in one nusach, u'biyachad. In kol hakol, as a community, as a kehila that we could say together. As Shemo Shlomo Levi Bereshia Habotim Shashir. We see his name is an acrostic, in the Charudi. V'dad Shneha Moroim Anal Rabbi Chanina Rabbi Yanai Nechlaku Heyach LeKabalas Shabbos. And the machlokas that we saw between Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Yanai in Shabbos. That's brought in Bava Kama. Kara Hashabbos Kala al pi Masha Amru Lecho Yesh Ben Zug Vili Lo Nasata Ben Zug. So what's this? What is this machlokas of calling Shabbos a malka versus calling it a kala? The Maharsha brings down that the idea is that on the one hand, Shabbos came and said everything else has a ben zug. I don't have a ben zug. I don't have a partner. I have a spouse. So Hakadosh Baruch Hu said, no, Bnei Yisrael, they are your spouse. With Shabbos Gufei, he kinesul Yisrael, and Shabbos becomes like a nesuin, like a marriage ceremony between us and Shabbos. About b'mali Shabbos he b'knesses kala lechupa. U'kemosha ayirei kedushin b'knesses lechupa nazis hakala nesua. And so that's the idea. When Shabbos comes in, it's like we're bringing the kala to the chuppah. So we're just about out of time. So I'll just stop here. But hopefully, again, I hope this is like inspirational, that we can see like more of a connection between what was going on, and in this case of Licha Dodi, what inspired Rosh Shlomo Agabitz to write this mizmor, or not a mizmor, I guess, but whatever we want to call it, Licha Dodi, and to write it so that we as a community can all say it together as we accept Shabbos together. And now we can see more of those allusions to the idea of Shabbos as being a malka, Shabbos as being a kala, for when we all accept Shabbos together.